We're now down to 128. I'm going to use a diagram to halve this. This one's really straightforward. Half of 100 is 50. Half of 20 is 10. Half of 8 is 4. And the answer is 50, 60, 4. The problem now gets easier from there. So I won't do the rest, but I will show you what the diagram looks like at the end. If this is the length of your pond, and we were starting at 512, and we jumped half the distance, we got to 256, then half the distance again, we got to 128, then half the distance again, we got to 64, halve again was 32, halve again, 16, half again, 8, half again, I'll write the answer here now, would be 4, half again would be 2, and finally we arrive at 1. How many jumps was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you did the red section, the solution, you could do it in all sorts of different ways. Let me present a few ideas to you. So 1 metre divided by 2, because first of all, if you're finding half of a number, you're just dividing it by 2. Look at how similar a half is to the division sign. The division sign is basically any number above any other number. So division and fractions are the same thing. Probably the easiest way to do this would be to convert 1 metre into 100 centimetres. And then you could just divide whole numbers. You would then halve 50. You could then halve 25. I'm going to show you how to do this with coins. So you've got 20 and 5. So to halve this number, we need the same on both sides. So I can split the tens. Now with the ones, I can put 2 on each side, but I've got this one left over. So what do I do about this one? Well, I've got to split the whole one in half. And how do you split a whole one in half? Just like that. So half of a whole one is actually a half. So half would go on this side, and half would go on that side. And the answer is 12 and a half. I am going to do lessons on fractions and decimals, but for now, you probably know that a half is the same as 0.5. Just briefly to explain that, a half is the same as 5/10, which is the same as 0.5, because 5 is in the tenths column. If you don't understand that, don't worry, I will cover that in a future lesson. Now we're going to halve 12.5. Half of 12 is 6. You could use a diagram for this one, if it helps. Half of 12 is 6. Half of 0.5 is basically half of a half. If I draw a diagram for you, there's half, and half of a half is a quarter. The answer is 6¼ which is the same as 6.25 because quarter is the same as 25 hundredths, which is the same as 0.25. So the answer is 6.25. We've still got to keep going until we've got a just a centimetre left. That's where I'm going to leave the solution for now, because I think you've seen enough to get an idea to keep on going for yourself to find the solution. But just to finish, I'm just going to show you how to halve 6.25 to give you some ideas. So we're going to halve 6.25. That's 6 whole ones, 2 tenths, and 5 hundredths. Now you can still use the coins for this if it helps you. That's our whole ones. In order to represent our tenths, we can use any of the coins. Just turn them over. So we pretend that they're not tens, but this time they are tenths. And the same, I can use the hundredths. Instead of as 100 coins, I'm going to use them as hundredths, and there'll be 5 of those. So 6.25, 6 whole ones, 2 tenths, and 5 hundredths. And we're going to halve this number. I can halve the 6 easy enough. I can halve the tenths very easily as well. Now I'm going to halve 5 hundredths. I could do this by moving those 2 hundredths over here. But I've still got to halve this final hundredth. Now 1/100th is the same as 10 thousandths. If you don't understand this, don't worry, I will be covering this in a lesson very shortly. But basically, if you multiply the top and bottom of a fraction by the same number, the value doesn't change. It's just represented differently. Now that we know 1/100th is the same as 10 thousandths, then half of 10 thousandths will be 5 thousandths. To show you that another way, we could exchange this hundredth for 5 thousandths. I'm going to use my 1,000 discs, but I'm going to pretend they're thousandths instead. So this hundredth is the same as 10 thousandths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I can get rid of that now, and I could split these in half. So you can see that half of 6.25 will be 3.125. 3 whole ones, 1/10, 2 hundredths, and 5 thousandths. Like I say, if you didn't quite understand all of that, don't worry, stick to the questions that you can do for now. We are going to be getting on to how to do fractions and decimals in a few later lessons. So now you've seen how to halve numbers effectively, let's practice them to get really fluent with them so then we can solve the problem more easily. So I'm going to give you 3 sets of questions like always, easy, medium and hard. If you want to choose the easier ones, that's great. If you want to choose the harder ones, that's great. You just choose the one which is appropriate for you. So don't choose anything that's too easy because you won't learn anything. Don't do anything which is too hard because you just get frustrated. Just pick the level of problem which is challenging and fun, but you know that you're going to succeed at. So Freddie is going to leap around the screen now, pause it at any point, head off and solve the problems, and when you're done, come on back and I'll explain the solutions. So hopefully you got on with solving the problems really, really well. Let's now have a look at the answers. So let's have a look at the solutions to the problems that you had a go at. I'll be using a green pen for the green solutions, I'll be using a blue pen for the blue ones, and a red pen for the red ones, so you can fast forward to the correct section and find it really, really easily. And what I will say is just stick to the questions that you had a go at. Don't get bogged down in trying to look at the ones which are a bit too difficult at this stage. Just consolidate what you do know how to do. There's always plenty of time to do the more advanced stuff at a later date if you need to. Okay, let's have a look at the green questions. Now, questions number 1, 2 and 3 were all the same thing, just written differently to get you used to the different language that you might see. So the first question was, what is half of 2? The second one was 2 divided by 2, which is actually the same as halving 2. And the third one was half of 2, which means the same as this, it's just written in numbers instead of words. So the only thing you need to solve the first problem are 2 coins. What's half of 2? 1. So the answer to each of these questions is 1. Question number 4, half of 20, is very similar to finding half of 2. But instead of using 1 coins, you can use 10 coins instead. So you've got 2 coins. If you halve them, you're left with 1 coin, but this time the coin has a value of 10. So what's half of 20? The answer is 10. Number 5, half of 22. You can use the answers to these two to solve this one. So if half of 20 is 10, and half of 2 is 1, then half of 22 is 11. Finally, half of 18. You could do this with 18 coins, and you just got to put the same number on each side. Here we have 18 coins, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And half of 18 is 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Another way to halve 18 would be in this diagram. 18 is made of 10 and 8. Half of 10 is 5. Half of 8 is 4. And the answer is 9.